Hi again. In this episode, we are going to talk about how is the best way to set goals. Now, if you hear that word goals, you go, oh, I set many goals, but I never achieve them. I want you to watch to the end of this because I'm going to empower you on the secret to not only set realistic goals, but be able to sort of quantify how far along you are so you will accomplish that vision you want. So put your seatbelt on. I'm going to blow you away with how to get clarity on where you're at and where you're wanting to go. My name's Doug Andrew, and I'm very passionate about helping people get clarity on where they're at in every dimension of their life and clarity on where they're wanting to go. In fact, even though many people came to me through the years, it was through what I call the financial dimension, and I began to realize that they really wanted more. They weren't happy or content, and so in 2005, I let all my professional licenses just automatically expire at the end of that year because I'm fine, but this is about you, not about me. And I want you to be able to understand some of the key things that I've invested over $3 million in my life to learn, but I've seen a lot of successful people that weren't happy. And so to help you understand how to set goals, I want you to watch this little illustration because this is so simple, but it is a game changer. When you're about to go on a trip somewhere for the very first time, what's the most important piece of information you need to know? Now, most people blurt out where you're going or how to get there. No, when using a GPS, it uses triangulation. And it does that by honing in on 3 out of about 30 satellites that orbit this Earth for that very purpose. Now, once it has clarity on where you are at, within 2 square feet on this globe, then you program in where you're wanting to go, and it will show you all kinds of ways to get to your desired destination. The freeway, the scenic way, the byway, and also where to refuel your car or yourself en route. So when people ask me, Doug, what is it that you like to do? I enthusiastically respond, I like to be the OnStar button on people's dashboard of life. You see, I like to help people get extremely clear on where they are at in every area or dimension of their life, and then get clarity on where they're wanting to go. Then the path to get to their desired destination can be easily mapped out, sort of how to live the life they want to lead. A very good friend of mine, strategic coach Dan Sullivan, told me one day, all progress begins by telling the truth. And I would add, to yourself. Sometimes the hardest person to tell the truth to is yourself. As a financial strategist, I can usually look at somebody's tax return because I'm a tax minimization specialist, or 6 numbers on a financial statement, and within 2 minutes, I can tell where they're at financially, how much of a fortune they're missing out on, what they know and what they obviously don't know, how long their money is going to last. The fact of the matter is you don't know what you don't know because you can't be aware of something you're not aware of. You can also tell where somebody's at by where they're at physically, okay? We make choices in our life regarding exercise or lack of exercise, nutrition or lack of nutrition that puts us not at ease. Our body cells at a cellular level are not at ease. It's what we call dis-ease. That all too often results in what my good friend Tony Escobar calls death by lethal ingestion, maybe because of weapons of mass consumption. But you can also tell where somebody's at by where they're at emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. But all progress begins by telling the truth. And once you have clarity on where you are at, and then clarity on where you're wanting to go, then the path to get to your desired destination can be easily mapped out. So I hope that helps you understand the key. So how do we do this? So when I sit down with my employees, my clients, our 6 children, our 17 grandchildren, we have certain days of the year that we set our goals. So for example, in December, usually the second or third Sunday, is when we gather all of our grandchildren and children, everybody over 8 years old, and we have them set goals for the next year. Many people call these New Year's resolutions. And so many times by February, people say, oh, I'm going to exercise and join a gym, and the gyms are packed on January 2nd, but by February or March, they're like ghost towns because it's hard to implement these goals. So what we do is we sit down and I give my children, one sheet of paper, and I say, okay, let's envision ourselves as if we're sitting here in this living room in December of a year from now. And I tell them that date. What has to have happened in that year for you to be happy with the progress you made in all those areas of your life, physically, financially, socially, emotionally, mentally, intellectually, in every dimension of their life. And they write down what has to have happened. And then I have a little breakthrough exercise where I have them identify. B stands for the barriers, okay? R, this spells break, are the resources they need to draw from, and E is the experiences, A is the action steps, and K represents the knowledge they need to obtain. I explained this in another episode. But that way, we go around and we share our goals. Now, one of the keys to achieving a goal is to share it with other like-minded people. You don't want to share a goal that you're going to lose weight with somebody who is jealous. Oh, I don't want you to lose weight, then you'll make me look bad. See, that's a scarcity-minded person. When you go and you have Thanksgiving and indulge, you don't want family members going, I thought you were on a diet. How come you ate an extra piece of pie? No, what you want is somebody to say, hey, we all cheat on holidays. Let's get up tomorrow morning and let's take a nice jog. These are the abundant-minded people you share your goals with. And when I have shared my goals to write books and have productions done, because I share it, then I am accountable to other people. The key is to set SMART goals. So let me give you this explanation of what the acronym SMART means. So SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and a time frame. So whenever we set goals with our children or our employees every December, like I described, they have to be specific. They have to show that it's measurable. They can measure their progress, and I'm going to show you how we do that, and that it's attainable and it's realistic, and that it's relevant to their life and also in that time frame. And I usually give them the time frame of 1 year, but you can have quarterly goals or whatever. But to help you understand where you're at, many times I have scorecards. Now, this is a sample of a scorecard that I use when I teach audiences that has to do with their money and also all the dimensions. And so, for example, over here we have these objectives of liquidity and safety and rate of return and tax advantages. And then down here we have abundance versus scarcity and 3 dimensions versus wobbling on 1 and learning responsibility and accountability. These are principles. So if there were goals, if it was physical, to lose weight or to start exercising, you list them, and over here is a description of poor. Where are you in relation to this? Is a score of 1 to 2, fair, good, better, best. A perfect score would be 10. And so what we do is we have everybody sort of put down a number and add up those scores to see where they are at. And with this, there's 10 principles, and the perfect score would be 100. How many of you want to raise your score by the end of this year? And it's very easy. When you quantify where you're at and you measure it, and then you say, this is where I want to be a year from now, you can begin to see the progress moving from red to orange to yellow to blue to green. So be sure and watch other episodes to understand how to get clarity on where you're at and where you're wanting to go using a scorecard system to quantify. So the key takeaway here is to have clarity on where you're at in life and where you're wanting to go. Use SMART goals, and then have some type of measuring device like a scorecard. So to understand the 3 dimensions of what I'm talking about, I would encourage you watch this episode if this is foggy to you so you can have greater clarity yourself.